Good morning, everyone, and it's really a pleasure to be here at Södra Teatern and surrounded by so many familiar faces as we celebrate 20 years of the NetNode meetings and look ahead what's to come next. I'd like to thank NetNode and Karin for bringing us together here and for inviting me to this occasion. And as you heard, back in 2005, when we held the first NetNode meeting, the idea was really to mirror the membership meetings of the member-owned European IXPs that they had these and bring together the customers of users of NetNode and the NetNode services and to discuss and to learn and to get to know each other. And as we've heard earlier from both Rob and Karin, I was the CEO back then. Before that, I had been I've been the chair of the Swedish Operator Forum, or SOF. I had also tried to start the Nordic Operator Forum, Nordnog, and to some extent, and perhaps slightly unfortunately, NetNode meetings came to replace, maybe to some extent, both of them, at least the former. If my memory is right, the very first NetNode meeting was in a small meeting room at the World Trade Center, and we had some 20 attendees, if I remember correctly. So a little bit just like the internet, the NetNode meetings have continued to grow, just slightly. And these meetings have always been more about more than just technical updates. They've been about the people who show up, the conversations in the hallways, and the trust that's built by working side by side on issues that matter to the internet stability. The world in 2005 was very different in many ways. 2 years prior to the meetings, NetNode had launched the Anycast service we just heard about, and DNS had then become a product as well as part of the critical infrastructure that NetNode operated. As you can imagine, I have many anecdotes and stories from these times, and we'll maybe save them for tonight, but there were also some learnings we had, and when we brought the first Anycast node live in 2003, this was a node in Helsinki, and we all gathered around Lehman again, around his screen to watch when we activated this, and we were all very excited. We were also somewhat disappointed that we had to scroll several pages through the query capture log before we actually saw a DNS query. And maybe that was a little bit of signs of what's to come and the challenges that we had to face in the future infrastructure. In the years that followed, NetNode staff worked a lot on furthering DNS protocol standards and DNSSEC, including the signing of the root zone. At the same time, these meetings continued to grow, and we have ended up what we have today, both in scope and in attendance, by the way. And I got to know many of you through these meetings and other industry fora, showing really what the value and the legacy these meetings can provide and that they create. Today, though, I wanted to reflect on something simple, individual actions, collective work, and global impact. It's easy to talk about the internet as if it's an abstract system. In reality, the internet works because of the people in a room like this that roll up their sleeves, test protocols, sign keys, and set standards that the rest of the world never get to see or understand. These outcomes are really global, but they begin with an individual's choice to contribute. And I would say that few embodies this more than Patrick Fellström. And last month, he was inducted to the Internet Hall of Fame, and many of you, maybe we should give Patrick an applause for the induction, by the way. Should we be celebrating him plenty, but many of you know Patrick well, as NetNode's head of security, and as a long-time standards leader, as chair of ICANN's Security and Stability Advisory Committee from 2011 to 2017, and I'm fortunate enough to say, as a long-time personal friend. I actually hired Patrick to NetNode at a dinner where I, for the first time, got to use an iPad as a menu, and I managed to break it. And maybe not everything is better digitalized, but that's maybe a story for another day. Patrick's influence on countless aspects of the internet we take for granted today, from ensuring characters like OAO in domain names, making sure that email standards functions across different systems, and these form the foundation of the internet that reflects the languages and needs of people everywhere. I often joke with Patrick that he also had a lot of influence on aspects of the internet that we actually never got to see, like who is plus plus. And here we can tell the difference in age between the people who laughed and the people who are wondering what I'm talking about. But and who is plus plus is something we probably all likely forgotten about, maybe for the better. And Patrick's recognition reminds us that today's work becomes tomorrow's legacy. As I mentioned, when NetNode launched these meetings 20 years ago, the internet was very different. Yet many of the choices that were made back then to open space for discussion, to focus on security and stability, and to invest in cooperation are the very reasons that the internet remains unified and resilient today. The choices we make now will be remembered in the same way. This legacy is not only technical, it's also about the inclusion. For the internet to serve everyone, it must work in every script, every language, and every community. And that's why we at ICANN continue to invest in internationalized domain names, universal acceptance, and multilingual access. And Patrick's early contributions in this area were not just technical solutions, they were statements of principle, that the internet must reflect diversity of its users and not erase it. We don't want to have to lose the cultural differences. At ICANN, our role is to ensure that the DNS remains secure, stable, and globally interoperable. And we do this by coordinating the unique identifier systems of the internet. We cannot succeed alone. Our success depends on the partnerships with trusted organizations like NetNode. And with communities that share our commitment to trust and stability. And for decades, NetNode has been a reliable and valued partner in this work, and we congratulate you on the 20 years of the NetNode meetings that have kept this technical community so strong. The world around us has changed. We see more governments challenging the multi-stakeholder model. We see emerging technologies like blockchain, naming systems, and quantum computing raising new questions for the security of the DNS. We see growing trends of abuse and misuse online, and through all this, ICANN's role is clear, is to ensure that the DNS continues to serve as a foundation of trust. That is partly why we prepare carefully for the next round of new GTLDs, making sure that information does not undermine stability. That's why ICANN's Office of the CTO team does a lot of the research, it publishes data on the health of the DNS, so the community has the information they need to act. And that's also why we partner with the likes of NetNode to keep the root servers, so LRoot and ICANN's instance iRoot for NetNode, reliable, ensure there's support for DNSSEC signing and key signing ceremonies, and thereby strengthening this chain of trust. Looking ahead, this is plus 20, or the 20 years since the World Summit on the Information Society, is another test on this model. The multi-stakeholder model of internet governance has kept the internet unified for nearly 3 decades. If decisions about its futures are made without those who actually operate the infrastructure, the risk fragmentation and the loss of trust. Finland, Sweden, and the wider Nordic community have long championed this model, and your voice will be vital in reaffirming that the internet must remain one, secure, and interoperable. So as we celebrate NetNode's anniversary and honor Patrick's induction to the Internet Hall of Fame, let's remember the lessons they share. The internet is built by the people who take responsibility. It's sustained by institutions that value cooperation, and it thrives when local efforts connect global coordination. Individual actions, collective work, and global impact. That's the story of the past 20 years of NetNode meetings. That's the legacy Patrick has shown us. And that is responsibility we all share to strengthen the internet today so it endures for the next generation. Thank you all, and congratulations again for NetNode for the 20 years of NetNode meetings.
Thank you so much, Kurtis. We're so privileged to have you here, Kurtis. We have a little bit of time. Would you, if there are any questions for Kurtis, please let us know now. Everyone's still waking up.
If anyone asks me to explain who is plus plus, I will defer.
Okay, then.
All right.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Kurtis again for a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much, Kurtis.